Alright guys, welcome to NextGenRugga, and we're going over another episode of Prospects Turn Pro, and this is the second group we're going to be focusing on. So if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to click that subscribe button as well as bell notification, and you'll be the first to know when new videos are released. So unlike last week, I'm not going to be blathering on too much. Obviously I just have to self-promote a bit, so don't forget to sign up to the newsletter. It's been very well received so far, so don't miss out. Released every Sunday, nextgenrugga.com/newsletter. And of course I am offering rugby CV services, nextgenrugga.com/rugby CV. Especially in these times, maybe you do need to stand out a bit. Check it out, and if you're interested, just let me know. So let's get into the Prospects Turn Pro, Volume 2. So first up, we're looking at MASANGO, and I've spoken about this guy quite a few times, and for good reason. He's at Wynberg Boys, awesome tight head prop, and he's heading over to the Sharks. Now, in terms of a pathway, the Sharks are stacked with talent, guys. There's absolutely no doubt about that. In terms of props, I mean, you got Dube and Lecce and Jacobs in the junior level. Senior level, you got Nche and Detoy. They're just a few names to mention. But in modern day rugby, you're always going to need 4 props in a match day squad. So there's definitely opportunity for him there. And he loves competition. He doesn't stand back for anybody. So I've got no doubt Big Phil can go very far in terms of his rugby career. Very promising future. And very humble guy, very hard worker, and I've got no doubt in my mind he's going to go very far in the game. Next up, obviously this guy was requested last week for good reason. Obviously I was never going to let him out in any analysis, but rather sooner than later I suspect. SACHA MNGOMEZULU, currently at Bishops, wears a fly-off, and he'll be staying in the Western Cape playing for the Western Province team. SACHA is one of the best young prospects I've ever come across. With regards to any position, he's just got a natural swag for the game, and that's what I call it. I call it a swag. There's a lot of guys that have messaged me and said, "Yo, he seems overconfident. Maybe he seems a little bit cocky." It's swag. You either got it or you don't got it. He just plays with that confidence because he knows that he's good and he knows that he's talented. There's no doubt SACHA is going to go very far in the game. There's no question about it. But in terms of a pathway, I think the first question that has to be asked is what's going to happen when SACHA and Cade Volhita are on the same team? Because as you guys know, Cade's come back to the Western Cape. And I don't envy the coaching team for making a call there. But remember, at that age group, it's all about development. And like I said, SACHA is one of the most exciting prospects in the game. For me personally, I just really hope that he's encouraged to play his natural game. I think what happens a lot with some of our enigmas, our guys that don't stick to the status quo and have their own style of playing and their own way of thinking, is that they end up having their creativity completely decimated, by coaches that aren't forward thinking. They want to box them in. They want them to play a very specific way. And I think what happens with these creative talents, I call them like a creative genius. I think what ends up happening with these guys is that they become despondent when they're not allowed to play their natural game, when they're not allowed to play with freedom and expression. And in the early years, playing with a lot of freedom and a lot of expression can land you in trouble. But if you allow the guys to play with that freedom and that expression, let them make the mistakes, they've got the talent, they've got the ability to learn from those mistakes. And I firmly believe SACHA is one of those players. You've just got to let him play the game. You just got to let him play his natural game, and then he can make magic happen. Because, modern rugby is so rigid in terms of the defensive coaching and all the rest of that. If you really think about it, it's very hard to, crack open an opposition defense. Everything's just so well organized these days in the professional era. So you need a SACHA type player that you can't coach against. He's gonna do something completely out of left field and leave oppositions bamboozled. So where would he fit in? I think he can play any position in the backline, to be honest with you. I know he prefers fly half. I think he can make big inroads at fly half. I think he could also be a fantastic fullback. I think he would be a very special fullback. I think he could do very well at centre as well. The only thing I think is he'd be wasted on the wing. He needs to be involved more in, first phase plays and all the rest of that. So, yeah, it's going to be definitely exciting to see where he ends up and what the future holds. But like I say, let's just pray that he gets a coaching team and gets mentored by the right people that don't try and box him in to become a certain type of player, because he's not going to become one certain type of player. So, yeah, I've got no doubt SACHA can go very far. And if he doesn't get love over here, he'll get love overseas, 100%. From what I've been told, he did turn down quite a few overseas contracts to stay in the country. It shows you that his head's in the right space. So just trust the process, let him play his natural game, and I think we'll have an absolute magician on our hands for the future. Next up, Josh van VREDEN, another player I've talked about a lot. Currently at Selborne, where he's a flank. Now he's going over to the Lions, which is a very interesting move. With a lot of the guys from the border in the Eastern Cape area, you generally suspect them to stay along the coast. They generally would go towards the Sharks or, maybe even the Western Cape. And Josh was one of the most sought after prospects in the country. I've got it on good authority that virtually all unions were after him. But finally, he was signed by the Lions. And if you take a look at his pathway, I think it was a very, very good decision to send him to the Lions, because going to the Sharks, even the Western Province and even the Bulls, I think it would have been a lot more difficult to get to the top. I've got no doubt Josh is going to get to the top, but I think it would have been a lot more challenging over there than it'll be at the Lions. And no disrespect to the Lions, like I say, yeah, they've got Ndamande and Sangweni in the junior structures, they can provide some solid competition. But in terms of the senior structures, I think there's a very, very clear path for him to forge ahead quickly and end up playing Super Rugby in his early 20s. I think you got to be playing, you got to make your debut between 21 and 22 in Super Rugby, to really forge ahead and reach the top of the game. If you take a look at the average age of international players, they generally make their Super Rugby debut. I mean, even 20 years of age, but 21, 22, round about there, that's a good age. And I think going to the Lions will definitely fast track his development, and I think he can go all the way. I think he can really go all the way. I think he can. He's got the ability to become a Springbok one day. He's very hardworking. He's talented, and because of the choice of sending him to the Lions, I do expect a swift rise to the top. I've got no doubt about that. Next up, we have HANEKOM from Paul Boys, currently playing 8th man, and he's going to the Bulls. And, before I get into the pathway, I just got to say that at one stage it looked like the Sharks and Western Province were doing all the business. And the Bulls have made some exceptional signings. And HANEKOM is definitely one of them, like I mentioned over there. He's a very special player. And the thing is that he's got Tele, Miller and Gous that will provide stiff competition in the junior ranks, and he is being joined by some players, special loose forwards that I'll be discussing in later videos. But he's a very big, imposing player, really reads the game well, guys. Very, very smart, very high rugby IQ, very smart player, and I think definitely a bright future could await him. I think he could be a great 8th man, definitely, but I've just got the feeling that HANEKOM could become a very special player at open side. I really, really think he's very, very well suited to the open side role. I think you're going to be shocked at how much he's going to grow. I mean, he's a big boy already, but just in terms of genetics and all the rest of it, I think the scary thing is he's still got a lot of room to grow. I don't think he'll lose the pace. I don't think you're not going to lose that ability to read the game. And I definitely think he can go far. Like I said, I think he can go far as an 8th man if he stays there, but I really, really see him in an open side role. I'm going to be speaking about these guys in later videos anyway, so my thing is that if you've got Willie Potgieter at 8th man, you've got HANEKOM open side, and you've got Reinhard Beton in the blind side, I think you got the best loose trio at under 20 level next year in the country, or close to it. I mean, it's very special, very special. That's a lethal combination. And Jake's aiming to build a dynasty at the Bulls, obviously. So surely he's going to be giving youth a chance. And if he does give youth a chance, you can see players like HANEKOM definitely, rise up to the top a lot faster than would be the normal case. Finally, we have JOOSTE now from Montana. He's a center, and he's going to France. He's going to be turning pro Argent. Now, there's not a lot of information available on the Argent youth team, but in terms of the senior rugby, not the biggest team in France. I think they're second from bottom in the table right now. Now, that is a good thing for JOOSTE now, because if you take a look at even the centers they currently have right now, I think there's definitely room for him to actually rise up the ranks very quickly. And the thing with the French clubs as well, they are very open to giving players a chance very early. If they think you're good enough, they'll chuck you straight into the deep end. I mean, it's not uncommon in the European leagues to make your debut first year out of school, 19 years old. I mean, even second year out of school, 20 years old. It's not uncommon, to be thrown into the deep end. So I think he made a very, very good move here. And also getting signed by an overseas team, despite being from a smaller school, it just shows this team that he's holding. Now, I forget the company's name. I think it's called Rugby Travels, the company that he traveled with. What's great about this company, guys, is that they provide the youngsters from smaller schools an opportunity to travel to France and get exposure. Him and another mate have got signed over, and they both went on the rugby travel tour playing for the Barbarians, I think. I think that's what they call the South African Barbarians or something like that. Who knows? Maybe at some stage we can get these guys on the channel and we can find out about their service. Believe me, no one's paying me for this. But yeah, I think they're called Rugby Travel. They are on Instagram. I do follow them, so if you want to check them out, just go to my Instagram page and check who I'm following. But yeah, they give these guys, they go to Montana, smaller schools like that, the opportunity to showcase their talent and get an overseas contract. Now, previously I predicted there'd be a lot more South Africans going to France. Now, we'll have another video about that topic as well, about South Africans going to France and why that's slowing down. But I don't think it will slow down in terms of South Africans going overseas. I think there's definitely opportunities out there. Look, Nal's got a very decorated rugby career. Like I said, despite coming from a small school, he played under 13 Craven Week. He's played representative rugby for the Bulls, and he's not one of the big schools. Montana's not one of the big schools. Competitive rugby team, but you can't say in the same league as Affies and schools like that, right? So I definitely think that in terms of his development, he's probably better off going to France and giving it a go over there, rather than competing at the South African unions where there's a lot more competition, especially in the centre position. I mean, there are some monster centres coming through. Not saying that he couldn't compete with them, but just saying in terms of fast-tracking his development and getting a chance to play professional rugby, this was a very, very good move for him. So, yeah, we'll definitely look at doing a video in the future about options available to young South African talents after school. I am doing my research on that at the moment, so yeah, maybe we can chat to the guys that arrange these tours and all the rest of it and find out what the situation is, because I'm getting so many messages, guys, about guys being worried about not getting their contracts and all the rest of that, and they're looking for opportunities. So yeah, look, I'm doing my research on that, and we might even chat to JOOSTE about that and find out how everything went for him, and we'll catch up with him once he's been in France for a while and find out how he's finding it there culturally and all the rest of it. But talented player, and who knows, we could have yet another South African representing the French against us. So anyway, guys, just lastly, some news. I'm going to have more clarity regarding the player highlight reels over the weekend. It looks like there's a body streaming service which really cares about the game and player exposure, unlike the other party that I've been referring to, and they're very open to talking. So if we can get that sorted out, the player highlights are going to be back, and they're going to be back better than ever, and I will be working exclusively in terms of the South African market with the streaming service. So let's hold thumbs and let's hope something can happen there. Very exciting news coming up regarding the UK and Ireland market. I've been in talks with people over there, and I think it's definitely time for the channel to spread its wings. And look, you know that I'm never going to stop showcasing the youth talent out there. So even if I start covering more stuff from the UK and Ireland and even New Zealand and Australia, let me offer you a guarantee that that South African schoolboy rugby is never going to be neglected, because in my opinion, it is the best in the world. It was quite funny chatting to the guys today. about South African school rugby and English school rugby. We did have a bit of a back and forth about the quality difference and all the rest of that. So I think we can actually bring that into the mix, when looking at the UK schools and looking at the South African schools. I just think these are two big markets, and there's definitely an opportunity to make the world of school rugby a bit smaller and a lot less elitist, and growing the game and giving exposure to youngsters from all over the world, because they need it at the end of the day. There's a lot of guys out there that are like a JOOSTE now, that have the talent, but just don't have the opportunity to showcase their talent. And that's the ultimate aim of this channel, is to be able to give guys an opportunity and give them the exposure they need to take their game to the next level. And it's been an interesting journey so far, but we have to evolve and we have to take things up the next level. And you guys have been with me from the beginning on this journey. It's been a hell of an interesting journey. I can't wait to see what the future brings, and hopefully you guys will continue on the journey with me. And I'm going to need all the support I can get, because as soon as I start saying amazing things about South African schoolboys, the English and the Irish kids are going to jump on and start arguing with me. So I need you guys to have my back anyway. So it'll be a lot of fun, guys. One of the parties is one of the biggest streamers, or if not the biggest streamer in the UK, and the other party is the biggest website in the UK. So I think with all of us combined, I think we can really create something dynamic and something interesting, and bring you guys the best content. And like I said to the guys today, the best part about it is ultimately, if you take a look at how the seasons are run, South Africa, generally, we start with a few preseason games in March. April, we have the Easter festivals, and then basically March to August, that's our rugby season, right? For them, it's August to May. So you're looking at basically a situation where we can cover grassroots rugby the entire year with some overlaps. And when England under 18 or Wales under 18 or Scotland under 18 come to South Africa and play against our boys, you won't be flying blind. You'll know you'll know about those English players. You'll know about those Welsh players. You'll know who to watch out for. You'll know about the schools. And when they come and tour South Africa, you'll know what players to watch out for. And hopefully we can get some arrangement, in terms of streaming those games and showcasing the talent out there. And like I said, making the world of school rugby a little bit smaller, one step at a time. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and have a fantastic week further, as always. Cheers. Bye.